During today's podcast, or this evening's podcast, if you listened, you probably heard me railing once again against the executive orders coming from this filthy pig, Donald Trump, and the support for that bullshit from the Christian devils who put him in office, which I find just so infuriating and disgusting and contemptible. Well, there's another example, and I didn't get to it during the podcast, but I'll share it with you. The Orange Bastard yesterday said it had fired 4 employees from the FEMA, from Federal Emergency Management Agency, fired them, including FEMA's chief financial officer. Why? Well, they were fired because they dispersed federal funds to house migrants in New York City hotels. Now, the firings came after an incredible chain of events. It began Monday, this is according to New York Times, with an early morning social media post by the South African Nazi Elon Musk, who lied, because that's what he does, and claimed that FEMA had recently spent $60 million meant for disaster relief to New York City to pay for, quote, high-end hotels for migrants. Now, there's something that I know you know this, and that is that everybody connected with Trump is a fucking liar, especially these Nazis, the South African asshole Elon Musk, who is one of the biggest liars ever. That's why he and Trump get along so well right now. Eventually, that's going to have as deep a schism as the Catholics and the Protestants had after Martin Luther, right? But right now, Trump and Musk are joined at, well, part of their anatomy. And Musk, because he is a Trump beast, lies, just like his buddy. New York City officials tried to clarify that the federal money had been properly allocated by FEMA under Joe Biden last year, and they added that it was not a disaster relief grant, and it had not been spent on luxury hotels. But, you know, tell that to the hand. Muck doesn't give a fuck about reality or truth any more than the Orange Bastard does. But anyway, even though the FEMA people are trying to say, no, that's not what happened, 2 hours after Muck posted that on his X, FEMA's acting director, the one who fillets Trump, announced that the payments in question, quote, have all been suspended, even though most of the money had already been dispersed, and the personnel will be held accountable. They'll be held accountable because Elon Musk is a fucking liar. A Nazi South African immigrant who somehow is running the United States. Why are we allowing that to happen? So by yesterday morning, about 24 hours after Muck put this on X, the Orange Bastard followed through on one part of the pledge. A spokeswoman for the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees FEMA, said, and this woman, Tricia McLaughlin, who is a Trump whore, said that 4 employees had been terminated, quote, for circumventing leadership to unilaterally make egregious payments for luxury New York City hotels for migrants. So in other words, the Trump whore, Tricia McLaughlin, and I don't mean that in a sexual way, you know what I mean, she's a fucking whore, as are all of these people. So she had to promote the lie. I wonder if Tricia McLaughlin, I'll bet she's a good Catholic girl. What do you think, huh? I wonder if participating in this bullshit has any effect on her self-respect. I wonder what moral platform she thinks she stands on when she makes statements like this for public consumption, knowing full fucking well that it's not true. Now, in her little statement, McLaughlin did not specify how the FEMA employees had undermined leadership, Or she didn't specify how making payments appropriated by Congress amounted to unilateral conduct on the part of the FEMA employees. That part is left out. But she said that those fired included 2 program analysts, a grant specialist, and an agency's chief financial officer, who FEMA's website called that chief financial officer, Mary Comans, before the Trump beast could get his hands on it. She's referred to as, quote, a longtime public servant. But McLaughlin, Trump's whore, said, quote, under President Trump and Secretary Noem's leadership, that would be Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security will not sit idly and allow deep state activists to undermine the will and safety of the American people. You see why I call her a whore? You see why she is a whore. So the fact that these firings came within hours after Elon Musk made his lying statement on X proves, if anybody needs proof, the influence that Musk has over the federal government. He is the executioner in chief. He is the guy who wields the huge axe across the back of the necks of these organizations as they slash government spending and change the federal bureaucracy into a handmaiden of Donald Trump. You'll do what I say, or I'll bring in my executioner and lop your fucking head off. And FEMA, that's an agency that the orange bastard and his bigger whore, Kristi Noem, have suggested should be eliminated. And what does FEMA do? Well, in part, with its $33 billion budget, it helps finance the government's response to natural disasters. But the bastard Trump and the whore Kristi Noem, oh, they're going to fix that shit. Are you kidding me? Now, nobody seems to know how the orange bastard will try to claw back federal money that was appropriated by Congress under Biden to help New York City respond to the more than, 250,000 migrants who have arrived there since 2022. And a spokeswoman for City Hall, and I'll get to the mayor of New York and how he became someone who participates in oral sex for Donald Trump to save his own ass. I'll get to that maybe tomorrow. But a spokeswoman for City Hall in New York City said that New York had not been informed about any pause of funding. And the South African Nazi immigrant, Musk, said that the payment of congressionally appropriated funds to the city, he said, was discovered. Ooh, it was a big secret, right, Musk? Discovered by his government efficiency team. He said that payment was unlawful and, quote, in gross insubordination to the president's executive order, end quote. We are in a very difficult situation, y'all. We have a government that must be removed, ended. It must be made to cease to exist. And there are a number of ways to do that, a couple of which are peaceful. So what are we going to do? What indeed? This is something that should be in the forefront of everybody's thought processes right now. We can't keep going in the direction that we're going with Nazis running the country, a South African immigrant especially, this crazy fucker Elon Musk. It's got to stop. And I think eventually it will be forced to stop. We shall see. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy. 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.